You ever heard of a show called The Prophet by Marcus Lemonis?
Yes.
Okay, that's one of my favorite shows. And I love what he was doing on the capital side, where he would invest in businesses. He would put his money in, and then, from that, he would start helping that business grow. And then he would own basically a large ownership of that. But I've always been a fan of John C. Maxwell. He's an author of leadership books. And he's always said that it's best to own 1% of 100 companies than to own 100% of one. Right.
Yep.
So when I started getting to Marcus Lemonis, I was talking to my little sister about things that I wanted to do, and a big part of that was something of that nature. She's like, I know someone who does that. And I was like, really? So she told me about Jansen, and then I was like, all right, well, I got to connect with her to find out what she does. So I went through this program about note investing, and one thing about it is my sister is into real estate. She's done wholesaling in California. She's now become a real estate real estate agent. She's been doing it for quite a while. But the thing about me is, one, I didn't want to really change industries. I didn't want to trade in one time-consuming industry for another. What I wanted was my time back and a plan for retirement. You spend years working for somebody else, but it'll never ever get you to retirement, like true retirement, right? You can retire, but let's be real, you're not making the money you need to really survive. And I'm not a baby boomer, so Social Security is a joke. It's not gonna ever be there for me, neither for my kids. So we already know how that goes. So I just needed a plan, something. I was working with a financial advisor, and I was like, look, I need my money to work for me, right? It needs to go get a job. So going through this program, it was exactly what I was looking for, a way to take the excess dollars that I had and put it to work for me to make it do things that I couldn't do, and looking for that passive type income. And you run up on all these programs, and different people talk about passive income, and most of them are multi-level marketing ones. I've been a part of those too. Not to say that they're bad, it's just you get into it, what you get out of it, right? You got to put in the work, you got to put in the time, and that's with anything. But then this one, I just felt like this was my niche. It's not MLM. I don't have to bring in a whole bunch of people in. I don't have downline. I don't have upline. I don't have any of that stuff. It's learning the concept of real estate, which was different for me because I've never been in real estate at all.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about that. You come in from a corporate background, so you understand structure, you understand policies and procedures, standard operating procedures, things like that. But how do you get from that to having enough confidence to put up $50,000 on the deal?
That came through the training. There's a lot of training videos, and really was not. I'm the type of person, I really want to understand something to its core. Once I understand it, once I get it, I got it. And you can never take it from me at that point. So, but I'm also a project manager, and I have to see the ending of a thing before I can get to the beginning, right? I have to see it all the way through. And before I tell other people about it, I have to go through it and live through it to make sure I fully understand it, especially if I'm going to be vetting something to someone else. My name is on it at that point. So I want to make sure people really, it makes sense to folks, it makes sense to me first. Yeah. So watching the training videos and spending the time going through, what really made the most impact was listening to the deals that other people were making, hearing the calls, coming in on, we do these Thursday calls, and the deal showcases. In the deal showcases in the beginning, everybody was speaking a different language. It was like Mars. I didn't understand the concepts. I didn't understand what was going on. I felt completely lost. But after going through that and then being able to ask questions on Thursdays and hearing other people's input, their thoughts, their advice, it sounded very fast paced, but it started going from womp to certain things started to make sense here and there, and I started connecting dots on this. And then Jansen would ask us what things we need training on, and I would speak about those things and kind of say, help me understand just this concept, and it's like taking one concept to another and finally connecting the dots and starting to make sense. And so now I can sit in on the meetings and I know the right questions to ask. I know the pitfalls. I know what things that go, what things are not great, things I don't want to hear. And then everybody's different too. Like what works for you may not work for me. I may like short-term deals. whereas Jansen like long-term deals and others like something in the middle. So you have to look at what makes sense for you, what makes sense for your money, your timing, what percentages you like. So I've learned all that just by coming to the meetings and listening.
Yeah.
And
so you hit on a lot of things there. So I want to underline a couple of them. First of all, you talked about the deal showcase and the topic reviews, which we haven't gotten into yet.
Okay.
But Sean actually came to our deal showcase last week or the week before. I think it was last week, came to the deal showcase. So we have investors from all over the place, multiple industries, multiple markets, primarily focused on land, but we do get people from other places. And it's interesting, I always talk about invest in what you know. And Dimitri's really interesting. So tell us, of the 5 investment strategies, transactional funding, hard money lending, note investing, note brokering, and equity partnerships, what have you invested in through this program?
I've done the partnership one. That was one of my first deals, and that was a deal with you. We did the partnership investing, which I thought was pretty cool because where there's a deal that's $300,000, $400,000, I don't have that kind of money sitting around, laying around, but be able to partner up with other people to pool in those funds and to watch how that was structured under a trust that will collect the funds and then redistribute the funds to the borrower and back to the investors. To me, that was a concept that I was like, man, it's really cool because also there was a sense of security with that.
Yes.
So the partnership one I did. Note investing, I purchased my own notes. I did my first one like 2 years ago. And that one actually wrapped up in December. So I completely did an entire note deal from cradle to grave. And I had to live through that.
I have to interrupt you for this one. So for that note deal that you did, it was just a couple of years. What was your annual rate of return on that one?
12.9%.
Oh, well, not that one. You had a much sexier deal.
Okay, so that one was you're talking about the.
I love the fact that there's so many you can't even remember, which is amazing.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Cinnamon Skies, which is that was his name, Cinnamon Skies, and that one was a partial deal. And that was a little bit.
We haven't even talked about partials yet, so
right. That's a little bit more complex to explain, but. Instead of buying an entire note from someone, I bought 1/4 of his note. So just think of everything divided by 4. And if you ever look at your amortization chart for your own loan for your house, right? Your amortization chart, the interest rate starts up here, or the interest in payment starts up here, and then it becomes principal and it goes counterproductive to it. So on your home loan, you're paying like 90% of interest and 10% of principal. And that goes on of a 30-year mortgage, that goes on for about 15 years, where it slowly decreases over time to the interest compared to your principal, right? So in a partial, what happens is you buy the first few payments of that note, which is maybe 5 years of the deal, which most of that is interest only. So you're collecting interest only payments, and then you're allowing the initial seller to keep the rest of the payments as cash flow for them, but they need some additional funds to go purchase another piece of property. So that's why they're interested in taking the partial, because you're giving them, X amount of $1,000 up front, and then they can go use it to buy some other property and keep the rest on the backflow. So that yielded me 51%.
ROI, or?
Say it again.
Was that a return on investment, or was that annual income?
That was return on investment.
Yeah. That actually, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like 48% every single year you were earning on that deal, which is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what you've learned here and how you developed that and evolved, specifically with the deal that you did with your sister. It's not land. It was a very interesting structure. So talk to us about how you did that.
So one thing you'll learn, you hear this term, is structuring the deal. And it really comes with some experience. And I don't have all the experience. Jansen is like a master at this. I envy her for, she has so much knowledge she can apply to it that just makes it easier. And hear her talk about it, sometimes it's like, man, I just want to download. If I can do the matrix.
We're working on that.
I know karate, show me, Morpheus, right?
Exactly.